a few things I wanted to go over today. I'm going to try to make it quick, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here just so you can see sort of the overview of what we're about to do today. So assuming you guys can see that, let me get a thumbs up in the chat, somebody, or maybe just unmute and say you can see it.
I see it, yes.
Awesome. All right, so this is going to be super simple, all right? I don't want you guys to get overly confused about this, but essentially all this is, I made a video about this before with Facebook instant forms, but I've done this recently with landing pages. And what we're trying to do here in a nutshell is improve lead quality for our clients. So over the last 8-9 weeks, we've talked about running ads plus using our AI services like 𝐓𝐤𝐻 or conversational AI to qualify those leads for clients. The last 4 weeks, we talked about how to acquire those clients using Facebook ads, but the first 4 weeks was all about fulfilling those clients. And one of the things that's challenging with meta ads is a lot of times you get people who say like, hey, the lead quality is trash. And they're not wrong. A lot of times, depending on how you configure the campaign, the lead quality can be trash and leads tend to be unresponsive. There's a few reasons that I think that's actually the case. One is people on Facebook or on Instagram are inherently distracted, right? So we're sort of like interrupting their pattern or interrupting their distracted time where they're sitting there scrolling and they see your ad and maybe it's something they're like sort of interested in, or maybe it's something that just caught their eye, they didn't know it existed and they submitted a form, but doesn't really mean they're like super high intent. Another thing is, when you build the form, if you build a form with not enough resistance in there, for example, if it just contains autofill questions like name, phone number, email address, those questions are automatically answered by Meta with the data that Meta has. In most cases, I think now they have an option for you to turn off the autofill in some ad accounts. I manage probably like 7 ad accounts right now, and not all of them have this option. But if you just leave it on to autofill, then you're gonna get inaccurate information because people generally don't trust platforms like Facebook and Instagram. And so sometimes they put inaccurate information there on purpose, or sometimes the information is old. And so what happens is if you leave everything set to autofill, the cost per lead for the client is gonna be super low, and you think that's gonna be good, but what's gonna end up happening after about a week or so is they're going to not be able to contact any of these leads, and they're going to spend some time calling these leads and nobody's going to pick up, or it's going to be a wrong number, or it's going to be some like fax number or something, and they're going to get frustrated and they're going to think, because they don't understand the technicals behind it, they're going to think you're either playing games with them or you're just like every other marketing company, yada yada yada. They're just going to complain and it becomes harder and harder for you. So this whole thing here is to help you increase the lead quality of your leads that you're providing to your clients on Facebook and Instagram. And so there's a few ways to do it. Today I'm going to talk about landing pages, but on instant forms, for example, the native forms inside of Facebook, one of the easiest things you can do to increase lead quality is to just ask manual fill questions. And I like to ask manual fill questions like, what is your phone number? By the way, I found recently that if you ask that question on a manual fill question, they've been denying my ads because they say, hey, we have that in our autofill questions. Why are you asking for personal information in your manual fill questions? That's new as of like 2 weeks ago. And so how I got around that right now, might not last forever, is instead of asking like, what's your phone number, I ask, what's the best number to reach you at? You know, I just kind of change the answer. I think AI is just reviewing my forms, and that's enough to make it through. But other questions you can ask are things like, hey, give me a brief description of your project, or how soon are you looking to install artificial turf, for example, if you're working with a turfing company, or what's your contact preference, call or text, stuff like that. Like just think of something that's simple for them to answer. Just ask it, right? And because it's not so much about the answer they give you, but it's about the time they take to actually fill out the form. Instead of like clicking it by mistake, everything's autofilled, and instead of pressing the X that's grayed out on the top, they press the blue button that's at the bottom, and they really didn't mean to fill out the form, but they did. So that's one way to do it with instant forms. However, you could still get a high volume of unqualified leads in instant forms, and what I found recently was pivoting to a landing page has helped with lead quality. Not only has it helped with lead quality, it's helped with the ability to prune, I call it pruning leads before I send the signal back to Facebook. And what do I mean by that? If somebody fills out an instant form, Meta automatically considers that a lead because it's on their platform. They know somebody filled out a form, and so they count it as a lead. But if I send somebody to a landing page, I have an opportunity to either send Meta the conversion API signal that we talked about, and we're going to go into that and refresh your memory if you're not super keen on the Meta pixel and the conversion API, but we have the opportunity to send that to them or just don't. And I like that because, for example, I work with home service companies, and one of the biggest complaints I get from home service companies, aside from leads being unresponsive or leads being low intent, is leads being outside of their service area. And so I actually built a Go High Level app to check service area inside of a workflow before we do anything. And I'm going to show you how to use that today, but you don't necessarily have to use my app. You can do something similar with like a zip code list or any sort of qualifying criteria. The idea, the fundamental, is that you be selective about what you call a lead. I used to do this in real estate as well. So we used to run ads for real estate, and we worked in a very specific market of Fayetteville, North Carolina. We also worked with very specific kind of clients. We didn't want a client that was already listed with a real estate agent, and we didn't want a client who was asking retail numbers for their property. And so what do? We created a workflow. In this case, it wasn't location based, but it was criteria based. Like, hey, if they said it was listed with a real estate agent, we would still talk to that person. We would call them, we'd treat them like a lead, but we wouldn't tell Facebook, we wouldn't tell Google that it was a lead, because we didn't want more leads like that. We wanted more leads that were either, had a very good motivation for selling, or, they had a financial hardship, or they wanted to sell like in the next 7 days, or they were going through foreclosure. Like, those were the people we wanted to work with, because those are the people we can actually make a deal with. People who have a pristine home that's already renovated, to 2025 standards, and they're listed with a real estate agent. There's nothing an investor can really do in that situation. So the idea is pruning the information that we send back to Meta so that we reinforce behaviors that we actually want to see out of our campaigns. Again, so that's the theory behind this whole thing. I'm going to show you how to actually actually do it in a workflow. I'm going to use the app that I created, shameless plug. But again, just remember that you don't have to be a service area based business. You can also just be a business or be serving businesses that have certain criteria to make a qualified lead. And so here's an example of the landing page that I pivoted to. So instead of just like a Facebook instant form, I should have put up a page or a photo of the Facebook instant form. Let's see, Facebook instant form. So we can show you, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm talking about. These forms that you see on Facebook, it's, you know what I'm talking about. You guys were with me for the last 8 weeks, but essentially the forms that are native to Facebook, I've replaced those for 2 clients, not for all my clients. Some clients it works and we have great results with them, and so I don't need to replace it. But 2 clients in particular we're having issues with, and this has been a major improvement. So we pivoted to a landing page. Much like the other landing pages I talked about over the last 8 weeks, man, keeping it simple, okay? Landing pages are meant to just squeeze information out of people, okay? And the information that we want in this case is the information you're looking at right here. And this is a pretty high friction form. It's not just asking for name, phone number, and email address. It's also asking for their address and their postal code. Why did I do that? Well, 1, I want to check their service area before I send the lead notification to Facebook. But 2, I didn't have an issue with lead cost in this particular instance, but I did have an issue with lead quality. So I increased friction, which increased lead cost, almost doubled lead cost, but it also like quadrupled the lead quality. I had a client reach out to me today and told me that he's been closing much more sales, but this was the culprit. Just real quick, I'll share this with you guys as well. If I forget, I will go ahead and have somebody just remind me, and I'll share the landing page template. And you can take this landing page template and make it your own for your own industry and do whatever you need to do with it. But essentially, it's simple. You can't click anything. The only thing you can click here is this get free quote button, and it takes you right up to the form, okay? There's nothing else. You can't expand these photos. You can't do anything with it. It is what it is, okay? Another thing about this, so I just copied this, but right here, I think you guys can see my plugins. Hopefully I'm sharing my entire screen, but the MetaPixel helper says no pixel. Okay, that's not actually correct, but I just copied this funnel into one of my coaching accounts. That's why there is no MetaPixel, but we're going to install the MetaPixel here so I can show you exactly how you would do it. And then we're going to go through creating the actual workflow. So first things first, let's go ahead and install the MetaPixel. I'm just going to pick a random pixel out of an account I have. General rule of thumb, I just create a new pixel for every client, right? If they have an existing pixel, I don't use it. I don't use it because I don't know where that pixel's been. I don't know who has it on what website, if a prior marketing agency is sharing it with a bunch of different people. And a pixel is sort of a repository of data that's training Meta on your business. And sometimes if the pixel has bad data, it's even worse for your campaign. So I just prefer to start from scratch. So in this case, let's just imagine I created this artificial turf pixel from scratch, and I'm going to go ahead and open it in the events manager so we can get the pixel code. Now, if you're setting up a pixel for the first time, there's kind of like a setup wizard that pops up, and it asks you if you want to manually install this on your website. That's going to be what you want to select. But if you have one set up already and you're trying to think like, hey, where do I get the code? See if I remember. I'm pretty sure it's here in Manage Integrations. Click Add New Integration, and then MetaPixel Setup. Manually add code to your website, and then it should give me the code. Install using code. It should give me the code snippet that I need to install in that web form. That's not what I was looking for. Let's see if it's in here. Add Conversion API, MetaPixel, Manually use partner integration, event setup tool. Should be in here. See detailed instructions. There's another way to do it too. Let's see. Something I can't stand about Facebook is a lot of times they see instructions. There we go. That's what I was looking for. They change things around. Like I literally have the 7 different ad accounts I was telling you about. Like things are in different places for all of them. It's super annoying, but keeps you on your toes. Either way, here is the base code. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this code, and let me just go ahead and throw it inside of my funnel. So right here is the funnel. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and share it with you guys right now so I don't forget. I'll put it here in the chat, and you guys should be able to import this into your accounts. Okay, let me come back over here and copy this again. And over here in the settings, there's 2 places you can put it. It's up to you. You can put it here in the head tracking code, which is typically where I put it, but I'll show you another place where you can put it as well. One of these 2 actually transfers over when you snapshot it. I think it's this one. If you come into the editor and you go into tracking code and a header tracking code, if you pasted it in here, it would be installed as well. I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to leave it where I had it. So now if I come over here and refresh this page, hopefully we see a metapixel. There you go. So metapixel helper shows a metapixel. Hopefully I'm sharing my whole screen so you can see that metapixel here, but now I can see that pixel is installed. So one thing to note, that pixel is just installed on the page to track page views. And things we can do with page views is like build custom audience for people who've landed on our page but didn't submit a lead form. We can do some of that stuff. We're not going to talk about that here, but it's generally a good idea to have a pixel installed on a landing page. Is it required? In a weird way, it's not. It's not required in this situation because we're actually going to be using the conversion API to send signals back to Facebook. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we're going to give Facebook an insight into our CRM, and anytime we say we have a lead, we're just going to shoot a message to Facebook and say, hey, you have a new lead. So you can go ahead and count that, and that'll get reported in the ads manager. Your cost per lead will be accurate. A lot of times people have issues because they're like, hey, no signals are being sent back. It's showing 0 leads, but I know I got 5 leads yesterday. What's going on? Well, you're probably not using the conversion API, or you're using it incorrectly, or you're trying to track events to other ways that are less reliable, but we're going to focus on the right way here. So now that we have that, the next thing we want to do is for this situation, I'm using this app right here, Service Area Checker. Full disclosure, I created this app. I created this app using Replit. I'm not some genius. This app does cost 3 cents per execution, but again, I'm just using it as an example to show you, hey, here is some criteria for my client. It has to be in their service area. If it's in their service area, if they filled out the lead form, I'm going to call that a lead. And so I already have it installed. If you didn't have it installed, you would just click install, and then we're going to create a workflow automation. So here in workflow automation, we're going to start from scratch, and I'm going to call this, what are we going to call this? Let's just call this lead intake workshop. And I already forgot the name of the form that I created, but I think it's called estimate form. There you go. So the trigger for this is going to be estimate form. And I always like to name things if I can. Form is estimate form. Awesome. So now anytime somebody submits the estimate form, they're going to trigger this workflow. I'm going to do some like housekeeping. I like to add a contact tag like intake, and I don't know, maybe like Facebook lead. So I would add intake tag and Facebook lead. You don't have to add these. This is just like internal stuff for me so I can track it. I do a lot of reporting to my clients. I like to go and filter the leads, say, hey, you generated, 60 leads this week on Facebook, and it makes it easy if I have them tagged. Next thing I like to do is I'm just going to go ahead and check the service area, because instead of like going through and creating, I guess I could create a new opportunity, but I might want to put it in a different place in the pipeline. And I may also not want to notify my client if the lead is out of the service area, right? Maybe I just don't want to even bother them if it's out of the service area. So it's up to you how you do it, but let's just go ahead and search for workflow actions, and we could check the service area. If these don't appear in your workflow actions, it's because you didn't install the app. But if you did install the app, you should be able to check drive time, and you should be able to check distance. And distance is like a radius around a specific address. And so we'll just keep it simple. We're going to check distance, and the start point is typically the business address. And so I come over here to the tag, and I go to account, and I actually do full address. So go to account, full address. So this will be the sub account's full address. So presumably the business's address. If that's not actually the business's address and it's like some registered agent or something, you can just go ahead and key in the business's address. Now, something to note is that this workflow action works with full addresses or partial addresses. I recommend a more complete address the better, but at a bare minimum, get a zip code, okay? Because this is using Google on the back end. And I don't know if you've ever typed something into Google and like you selected like 123 Main Street, but it's like 123 Main Street in a different city because you didn't complete the address. This will do the same thing if you don't actually set the complete address, but if you set a zip code at a minimum, it will work. So for the destination address, we asked, if you notice here, we asked for their address, street address, and postal code. And remind me to show you a little trick that I used here, but this is just using Go High Level's standard autofill stuff. You notice it autofilled the street address and the postal code. So at a minimum, we're gonna have a street address and the postal code, but what I'm gonna do inside here is I'm just gonna say contact full address. Because even if I don't have the city and state, which I actually do have the city and state, I'm going to show you how here in a second. But even if I don't have the city and state, I at least have the street address and the postal code. I just said the postal code is enough. And so it is going to be enough. So here we're going to say max distance. We'll just set it to 30 in miles. So it's going to draw a 30-mile circle around the start point, and it's going to tell us if it's in that radius or not. And so when I click save, you'll see that 3 branches are going to appear. And the 3 branches are within service area, outside of service area, or error and undetermined. If something happens with my app or something happens with the workflow, and for some reason it just goes to like a catch-all, maybe we want to fail safe, and we want to still notify the client and maybe count it as a lead if we couldn't determine if it was in the service area or not. But I don't think I've had much issues with it. Now that I'm saying it, we do it live, we're probably going to see it go through some errors. That's the beauty of live work. But before we move forward, I want to show you a little trick here in the form. So I mentioned that we didn't ask for city and state, but we are using Go High Level's standard autofill. One of the things I like to do just to keep the forms small and less daunting, you can hide fields and stuff like that, or you can like hide fields as they answer them in forms. But one of the things I just like to do is city and state, like I'm just gonna leave it hidden, right? And the zip code's gonna be there. If the zip code's incorrect, like as somebody's filling it out and it's a zip code in like California, but they're in Florida, they're gonna notice that. They're probably gonna fix the zip code. But the city and the state are actually hidden and they're optional. So if I come over here to the address section, I just drag and drop address from in here where it says updated. And then here, city and state, I just hide them and I don't make them required. And now whenever somebody searches for the city and they click on autofill, the city and state are actually going to get filled out as well. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go back into our workflow. And now that we have the 3 prongs, when it's within the service area, maybe we want to do something like tag ISA in service area. And let's just copy this. And if it's not in the service area, maybe we want to... they changed that. I gotta press that little button. There you go. And if it's not in service area, maybe we say something like NISA, just as an abbreviation to keep things short. I like short tags. I don't like long tags. And then if it's the catch-all, maybe we come over here and we just call this SA catch-all, service area catch-all, SA catch-all. Cool. All right, so if they are in the service area, well, what are we gonna do? We want to send a Meta Conversion API event to Meta because they're in the service area. It's exactly what we're looking for. So I need a few things out of my pixel code. So I'm going to come through and finish this here, although this was already done once. Let me just make sure that comes back. We need the pixel ID and a conversion API key. So we're going to come over here and click on settings, and right up top, you'll see something called the dataset ID. We're going to copy that dataset ID and then come in here and make sure we paste it where it says dataset ID. And then we're going to scroll down till we see generate access token. We're going to go ahead and click generate access token. That's going to give us an API key. I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste that in the access token section. And then the event name is a lead. 100% of the time, this is the event, I should say 99% of the time, this is the event type that I use or the event name that I use, unless I'm selling something. In the example where I was selling the Voice AI course, the event type was purchase. Okay, but when I'm generating leads for my clients, I'm not doing e-com or anything, I'm doing home service-based stuff, so it's just lead. This just needs to match whatever your objective or your conversion goal is in your Facebook in your Facebook campaign. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the stuff that we did in the workshop maybe like 4 or 5 weeks ago when we were setting up the campaigns for ourselves and our clients, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about conversion goal. So long as we're optimizing by lead, then you want to report lead. Somebody was on a call last week and they were optimizing by submit application. I think it may have been you, Orlando, or maybe somebody else. Somebody was optimizing by submit application. And so if that's the case, then the signal that we want to send back to Meta is going to be submit application, okay? To keep it simple, just optimize by lead and we'll send the lead notification. They just need to match. And then we'll save. No custom mappings, nothing else. If you want to come over here and say lead, you can call that a lead. Cool. At this point, we're going to send an internal notification. Maybe we want to text our client only when it's in the service area, and so we're going to send a text to all users and say, hey, you have a new lead, and then here's like the name, here's the phone, and then here's the address. Simple. Okay, contact, name, contact, phone, contact, full address. Sweet. So at that point, you probably do other things like, I don't know, create an opportunity, like maybe create a new lead in a lead pipeline somewhere, new leads, or maybe you'd say qualified leads or whatever. We'll just leave it at new lead. Opportunity name, I typically like for it to be the contact, and I'd do a little dash, and maybe I'll put the full address in here, just so that at a glance, if somebody's looking at the opportunities pipelines, they can see the information they need. Let me go ahead and type new lead in here just to stay organized. Now, if it's not in the service area, you may want to do things. You may still want to notify your client. Maybe your client wants to know, even if I have stuff out of my service area, give them to me because I might refer them to somebody else and still be able to monetize that lead. Or when we're slow, maybe we'll go outside of our service area and do those estimates. And so you might want to notify them. So you can just go ahead and copy this. And then maybe you just modify the messaging here. You say you have a new lead potentially outside of your service area. And still give them the same information because you still have the same information there. And so you just modify it. But look what you don't do. You don't send the lead notification to Facebook because we don't want to reinforce bad behavior. Over time, what this is going to do is only count the leads that are in your service area so that Facebook can find more leads just like that. That's the whole point of it counting leads and you sending signals back to Meta, is for it to learn what's going on inside of your CRM. What's the business doing? I want to help you. If Facebook helps you close more deals, you're going to spend more money on Facebook, so it's in their best interest. So we're only going to send leads that we consider marketing qualified or sales qualified, whatever nomenclature you want to use, back to Meta. And the same exists in Google PPC. If you're running Google PPC ads, like I told you earlier in real estate, I would do the same thing. Hey, if they said yes to, I'm listed with a real estate agent, or they said yes, it's a mobile home and we don't do mobile homes, I'm not going to tell Google that we had a good lead. I'm just not going to report it. And that way it thinks, hey, that was a click, but it wasn't a lead because I got to keep trying. Oh, look, we just got a lead for this guy. It's not a mobile home. They aren't listed with an agent. Okay, cool. We're going to try to find more like that. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but over time, it's going to get better and better and better. And most importantly, you're not going to be reinforcing bad behavior. Error and undetermined catch-alls. Choose to do what you want here. Maybe you want to just go ahead and fail safe, like I mentioned, and we'll just copy everything from within service area to error and undetermined. But if everything's working appropriately, we should never really be in this section. The only time this happens is if somebody puts something incorrect in the address section, like the zip code is not really a zip code, or the address is not really an address, or it's not found in Google. That can happen here. Or if something's wrong on my end with the infrastructure for the app, that can happen as well, but it doesn't happen often. And so what I'm going to do here is we're going to test this workflow. But before we do that, I'm going to come in here and just create a contact. And I'm going to create a contact that's within the service area first, just to test that. Let's see, what is my address in this demo account? I think it's like San Diego, California. Cool. So 9202. So I'm just going to, I don't know, make up a address in San Diego. Let's go to Zillow. And 92102. Is that a real? Yeah, there we go. 2847 Broadway. Hopefully that's within 30 miles. We're about to see. Free marketing for anybody who's selling that house. So let's come over here and let's create a new contact. And one of the things I didn't mention here in the lead intake workflow, and it's probably pretty important to mention, is that this is just an example, guys, but you probably want to reach out to the lead as well, right? So in here, you might want to, SMS the lead like, hey, thanks for inquiring, yada, 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 provoke a response, right? So that your bot can activate. I'm not going to do that here because I'm going to put some bogus information here and I don't want it to actually like text anybody, but you do have to reach out to the lead. And maybe you don't want to reach out to the lead if it's outside of the service area, or maybe you want to send a canned response, and maybe you want to turn AI off if you're using CloseBot so that you don't book an appointment outside of the service area, stuff like that. But I did want to hit that before I created a contact. So let's come in here. I'm going to create a new contact and I'm going to say test user. Okay, I'm going to save that, and then let me just go ahead and add an address here. 2847 Broadway. Okay, San Diego. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to put a city and state. I'm just going to put the zip code just so we can see if this works with partial addresses. So postal code. Awesome. So we have that. I'm going to come into my automation workflow and we're going to test this. So I'm going to test workflow with test lead or test user. And let's see what happens. Let's see if we can follow it through. So it looks like it's coming through. It's checking service area. And it looks like it's complete. And if we come over here to see the execution path, it looks like it went down the in-service area, right? So let's check that. Let's check the maps.google.com and let's just make sure that this thing is working as we think it's supposed to work. Let's come in there and we're gonna get directions from that address to this address and see how far it is. It's just a random address in the same zip code. I just assumed it was 30 miles away or less. And there it goes. It's 3.3 miles away. So it's definitely within the service area. So let's test something else. Let's go back into that contact and now let's change the, let's change the address to, I don't know, let's find a random address in Miami. Let's come in here, Miami, Florida, and we'll just pick this. All right, so we're gonna change that address to our Miami address, 33142, and we just save that. And let's just make sure, I'm just gonna put the zip code in here. We should definitely be outside of our service area. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, there we go. 2,658 miles away. We're definitely outside of service area. So let's run this again. Let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and test workflow with the test user. That was me. And run the test. And let's see what happens. Nope. And if we come down to the execution path, I'm going to mute you, Javier, just because I think you hot mic'd. It looks like it was outside of the service area. So exactly what we wanted to happen. Okay, so we didn't send a meta conversion event, and we just sent an internal notification that's saying, hey, you had a lead that's potentially outside of your service area, and that's it. All right, so that's pretty much the gist of the entire lesson. We're right at 7:30. I wanted to keep it as like just a quick hot take, under 30 minutes, but I wanted to get you in the mindset of just thinking that you're like you're not at the whims of Meta and its reputation. There are things that you can do to improve your campaigns, and this is along the lines that you need to be thinking. Again, you don't need to use this app that I created that I will profit off of if you use. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it other ways, but what you want to do is try to prune and shape the information, shape the training of the campaign for you and your clients. You can do it for yourself as well, for you and your clients, so that you just incrementally increase lead quality and have accurate reporting through Facebook and Meta. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'll stop for any questions, related or unrelated. Hopefully you guys found that helpful. I'll sit here in painful silence.
Yeah, no, that was fire, Justin. I just pulled up the snapshot, noticed that the form didn't come over. I don't know if you mind just shooting that over.
Yeah, for sure. The form, I don't know if I can share it in the same way. The form never comes over with the funnels, which is really annoying.
I think you can share forms in that same way, though.
Can I? Let me see. If I can, I definitely will. Let me see. Sites, form.
I know it wasn't nothing too crazy anyway if you can't.
Let me see if I click in it. I know I have to upload it to my own templates. Integrate, share. What? Here we go. I don't know if that's the same thing. I'll tell you what, though. I'm going to drop the form link in here, and then even if you can't copy it into your sub account easily, you can just wait, that's not what you can that's not a link. Open form link. There we go. Yeah, that way you guys can just reference it. But yeah, nothing crazy, just some colors and stuff like that.
Cool. So I guess a question, Justin, this whole tutorial about what you just went over, the main point is just to give the Pixel and Facebook or whatever advertising platform the correct data to optimize for them based on what a qualified lead is to you.
Correct. And it's to not like inundate, or just like I don't know, it's the difference between like fine motor skills and gross motor skills, right? Like we're just trying to hone in the campaign a little bit. And this is a big deal for like big ticket stuff. In real estate, this is a huge deal because too many times like people's campaigns are optimized towards the wrong thing. And it's a lot of times for real estate investors, like it's the property that's already listed on the MLS, the property that's vacant land that they don't invest in vacant land, or it's a mobile home and they just care about single family homes, stuff like that. You just don't want to be sending that data back because you're just reinforcing bad behavior. It's like a little kid who keeps having tantrums and you're just telling them good job kind of deal.
Makes sense. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, man, no problem.